Hello, everyone. Welcome to Masters in Travel. Whitney here. This week, we're going to chat about DMCs, my love affair with DMCs, and also my deep, deep frustrations with DMCs. But to make sure that I don't get soapboxy from minute number one, together with Kate Sullivan. Kate, hi, welcome back. We'll always love to have you, especially when we get to chat about DMCs.
Love to be here. Super excited for this conversation.
I know, me too. To bring in some fresh new perspective and just ideas. And so that Kate and I can also just like listen for a second and remember what it's like to be a newer advisor. We're also inviting in a newer advisor to kind of get like this idea of you're new, what is your experience with DMCs? And so to see, I think Kate and I'm eager to learn how have things changed, but also like to remind us like, oh yeah, 9 years ago, I felt that too. So Anna Tretter from Tretter Travel, welcome to the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Anna, tell us how long you've been in business.
Yes, so I joined the industry August of 2023, and I took about 4 months to work behind the scenes, getting my processes in place, building out my website, branding, all the like back-end business systems. And I officially launched my business on January 1st of this year. So just counting out 1 year.
Like a full year. Okay,
full year.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just dive into like the juicy stuff of being a newer advisor. When you got started in the industry, I don't know your background, if you had any connection to the tourism and hospitality world. Like, did you know what a DMC was? Had you never heard of one? Like let's roll back to like a year ago and somebody says DMC. Like, what was your response to that?
Yeah, so obviously the phrase I was not familiar with. However, I had worked as a client with advisors before. So as a client, I was familiar with the concept that there would be someone in the destination.
Okay.
But I didn't really have any context for what that actually meant. And I can say, like, as the client, sometimes it was confusing. Why is this charge coming up on my credit card as this company I've never heard of? So there was like, I think it speaks to a broader issue of maybe a little bit of a lack of transparency in our industry about how things work. And I think it's totally fine to, now that I've, been doing this for a little bit, totally fine to explain to clients what that in-destination partner really does for them, because it is a huge value add for their in-destination experience. And not explaining that to them is sort of a miss, because if they didn't work with you, they wouldn't have on-the-ground support.
Did you coach her before the call, Kate? Because she's just like on fire in her first year of business.
It's an amazing mentor, even if she doesn't know it.
So as you're getting started, you as a client, you've experienced this on the ground support and like this team in destination and whatnot. What was your experience starting to seek out support of a DMC or learn about who could you potentially work with as an advisor trying to navigate that at the beginning? Did you immediately know when and how you should look for a DMC, like when you should bring a DMC in? And then how did you know like which DMC to work with? Like what was your experience in those first, few months of that part of your process?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that my host for a travel is really excellent at giving some guidelines around when and how to use DMCs. And also they do have a database of their vetted in-destination partners. And so that was like a real quick start for me. I didn't have to totally go from scratch. And I could also reach out to a community of other advisors for their input. That said, it's really personal which DMCs you like to work with and which ones are a fit for your clients, because my clients tend to be like 30 to 45 and they are not doing 8-hour history tours. So a DMC that really specializes in like very detailed ancient art in Athens, like isn't going to be a great fit for a lot of my clients. And so I think the biggest aha for me early on was the landscape of DMCs, even in one country, is so vast. And it's our job, in the same way that we vet hotels for our clients, we have to vet suppliers and DMCs for our clients. And part of that is just like learning as you go. And so my approach has been, let's say I get 3 inquiries for France, I'm using 3 different DMCs. And I don't mean to say asking for an itinerary for the same client for 3 from
You
three
mean you're
different DMCs.
trying 3 different
I'm
DMCs for 3
sampling
different trips?
exactly, and we're seeing what does the itinerary creation process look like? What's the payment process? How speedy are they in responding? Do they have staff in an office in the US so they're working on my same time zone versus overseas, which I've also learned is like a huge barrier to getting things done quickly. So just learning things like that and then figuring out at the end of it, okay, so I tried 3 different partners, which one feels like it was the easiest for me to work with and which one also created the best experience for my client.
And so this is such an interesting approach. So you try 3. In any case that you've tried multiple DMCs, have you gotten started with one and then just felt like, I don't want to go back to square one. I don't want to reach out to another one, but like this isn't working?
So my very first MC I worked with, I had to do that. And I
Hey,
just
don't feel bad. I'm doing it this week, like right now.
it was
This
like
is not
something's wrong with
something that
me.
like only new advisors do or that never happens. I also don't like it. And what's happening right now, they're not new suppliers for me.
Mhm.
So it's not even like I don't know how they work. It's just what they sent back based on the request. It's not working. So I had to do this week. So I didn't try to put you on the spot there to make it sound like
Yeah,
you did
this
something wrong.
continues.
No.
Yeah.
That's not how
Continues
I
to be
took
an
it at
issue.
all.
Yeah.
But it's not great. Like in the
It's
same
not
way that
awesome. Right.
no, in the same way if a client were to reach out to you and you know, they want to break up with you in the planning process, it's like, I don't love that for anyone.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, your loyalty and your like top priority needs to be a great client experience. And if a DMC can't give you that, then yeah, you have to move on.
Okay. So, hey, I don't mean to make this the Anna show, so I want you to like jump in whenever you want, but
I'm gonna learn
this is
too.
just fascinating.
Yeah, no,
I'm just like,
I'm engrossed. And
this is amazing. Okay. So you had 3 inquiries in France. Did you go all the way through the process with 3 different DMCs and have the clients traveled yet?
Mhm.
So you've completed start to finish with 3 different DMCs in one destination.
Mhm.
Okay. What about each of those experiences felt good? And what was like, didn't love that?
Ooh, that's great. Okay, so I can say for the very first DMC inquiry I had for a high end couples trip to France, the first itinerary that they sent me was just an Excel spreadsheet that listed the name of the activity or transfer and then the price. Literally zero description. It was
How
not a
do
cheap
they
trip.
think we can sell this?
Thank you, because I responded to them and I
Frustration
said,
number 1.
how am I supposed to send this high end proposal to a client and say, trust me?
Yes,
It's going to be
exactly.
good? I don't know.
Exactly. No, I 100%. So I really love
help me help you.
Exactly. Help me help you.
Yes.
I want to close this sale and this trip design as much as you do, but like it's not going to happen like this. What do
Nobody's
you think we're
spending
telling
50
the
grand on a
client?
spreadsheet. Yeah.
Nobody's spending 50 grand on full day visit, full day driving tour of Paris.
No, it was like, I can't put this in
That
front
would
of
be
the
like
client.
going to an interior designer and they come back with a 50 grand proposal that's like red
Like,
wallpaper with some texture.
That's exactly it.
Can I see the wallpaper? No, you cannot.
And it was all sort of under the guise of like, well, everything's really exclusive. And I'm like, well, I'm going to need more than that, you know?
I am dying to know their thought process. This is like bullet point number 1, and we're already like off the train tracks. Like, what is going on in their office, making them think like spreadsheet, title, no description, 50 grand, you in or you out?
Mm-hmm. I know.
What?
I know.
well, it is a little bit curious because, like, presumably this isn't somebody who's brand new.
And
So, like,
reps.
they have been operating this way for some time. So,
Like this
is
works
that
for
indicative
you?
that like most advisors are just like, I'll figure it out, and either like put a lot more legwork on it on the advisor's end to make it palatable to a client, or maybe there are clients who are just.
But this just
I
seems
don't
really
know.
risky.
It's really confusing to me.
It seems really risky because like, okay, sure, I can go make it palatable and try to like come up with a description of what I think this means. But that may mean
What
that
if
I'm
it's
selling
not?
the wrong experience.
Yeah.
That was my exact
Yeah.
fear. I don't want to promise you something that I don't even know what it is.
I literally go into each sentence and I'm just like, what's this? Is that going to happen? How's that going to happen? Tell me more about this.
Yeah.
The clients want to remove that part of it. And DMCs are usually like, okay. But I'm like, you put it in the description. They're not interested. Like, we're paying attention to these very detailed descriptions. And when they're vague,
And conversely,
I come
like
back.
a client may latch on to something that seems really innocuous or like unimportant to us in a detailed description, or unimportant to the supplier, and then it doesn't happen. And they're like, I really thought we were going to go to that market, and then it didn't happen. And that was the thing I really wanted to do.
And now there's disappointment. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is like, how okay.
It's like you
I'm
can't
making
even
a
set
list.
expectations when you don't get that. Yeah.
Well, and anyone who has talked to me for 2 seconds knows that, like, everything that we do and the success of what we do it all goes back to managing expectations.
Mm-hmm.
When we manage clients' expectations about the experience and about the cost and about everything that's going to happen on their trip, that leads to success 10 out of 10 times. But when things are vague, when they're wishy-washy, when we know something but we don't mention it or we don't highlight it, or any moment that there's like a detail that we haven't managed, that is a wide open gap for disappointment or like just a misunderstanding or like a misalignment of what they're envisioning.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree. So when I think about when a great DMC sends me a proposal and it's like, here's our start time, or even if they don't know that, like, tell me it's going to be in the morning. Give me the duration. Give me a nice description.
Duration bare minimum. Like, are we talking 2 hours or 10 hours? Like, we need to have some context. Now, Kate, this is her first inquiry as a new advisor with a new DMC. Did some part of you think that, like, this is just how it is?
Yeah, I 100% was like, am I in the wrong here? But I did reach out to some other advisors in my network, and I just said, is this normal that your first itinerary proposal from a DMC, like, everyone says, oh, DMCs are so hard to get itemized invoices. That's all I got. Why is this backwards?
Wait, did this spreadsheet have pricing too?
Yes. I was like, did they send me the wrong thing?
Now I need to know the name of this DMC.
It was so bizarre. I was like, this is opposite of everything I've been told to expect. So this can't be right. And when I did kind of push back and ask for more description, they couldn't give it to me and said, like, I'm not comfortable moving forward, putting this in front of my client. So I don't think it's going to be a fit. And they were understanding and said, let me know if they change their mind. And they didn't. And we picked another DMC and had a fabulous trip.
Let me know if they change their mind. I'm always so fascinated.
Change their mind about having zero information about.
Well, when DMCs are like,
I would think you had gotten the wrong document, honestly. If I was new, that was my first interaction, I would be like, oh, they sent me some kind of internal thing. Where's the actual proposal?
Mm-hmm.
When DMCs think that we are sharing this with clients and then clients are coming back and saying no, there are so many times that the DMC has said, like, let me know if they change their mind, or let me know if I'm like, the clients will never know about this.
Right. The clients are never seeing your document.
They will not see this proposal. They will not know that we spoke. They will not know that there was this error that I caught before they got it. They will never know about this. That is literally the purpose of me being involved. I am advocating for them.
You are vetting your suppliers and advocating for your clients.
What on earth?
So, big learning.
This is a small tangent, but there was a decent sized price discrepancy in a final payment this week. We're talking like $2,000. So like 10% of the trip.
Nothing.
Not nothing. And the response from the DM, like, it was an error on their side. And the response was, let me know if this is a problem for the client.
Oh.
And I was like, because their thought process was like, the original cost that you had was wrong. It was our error, but we updated it. It's $2,000 higher. Like, now the pricing is correct. And I was like, that's fine. Mistakes happen. They approved and authorized an amount that was $2,000 lower. This isn't their fault. And their literal response is like, let me know if this is a problem for the clients. And I was like, it's a problem for the clients. Like, this is not going to the clients for them to tell me it's a problem. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not sending this to the clients. We will figure this out between us. And then they're like, okay, it was our mistake. We'll cover it. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Why even get to that? Because doesn't that
Why
then like
even get to that?
Like you don't want to work
I
with
know.
them again in the future then?
I caught 2 pricing mistakes just this week alone. And I was like slacking my team and I was like, are you guys watching this? Because this week alone, my clients would have been out a total of $3,500 had I not been paying attention to numbers.
Oh,
like
my
one
goodness.
$2,000 over here and one $1,500 over here. And Tori was like, nobody's getting ripped off if Whitney has anything to say about it. And I was like, I just can't, like, what is going on with all of these mistakes on the quotes and like just numbers flying around left and right? Like if you're not paying attention, like they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a tangent, but like also pay attention to numbers because.
So what does that look like for you? Like, are you adding up their invoices manually?
So basically they send me the invoice like, okay, this is the trip. There's multiple iterations with the edits. And then it's like, okay, here's the final invoice. Here's the final amount. So then we put that into Traveljoy and we have their line item. So we have the DMC, the air, all the trip protection and stuff. And then we break out their deposit and their final payments. And so when we go back to the DMC at final payment time, we go to our Traveljoy. We don't go to their invoices. And so we go to Traveljoy and we say, hey, DMC, we believe like the final payment for this trip is due next week. On our side, we've got a final payment due on this day for this much. Just kind of like reconfirming, like double checking, doing due diligence on the amounts. And then they wrote back and they're like, our numbers are a little bit different. It's $2,000 higher. Here's the payment link. And I was like, hold up. Like if there's a mistake, we need to find it. Right. Mm-hmm. And then, so that was on the final payment side. And then the other payment mistake was on a proposal side where there was tons of iterations going back and forth for a whole host of reasons. And they sent like, okay, we've got it. We've got the rooms on hold. We've got everything ready to go. And I did a quick scan of the itinerary and I was like, perfect. This 1 half-day walking tour is missing. And they're like, yep, you're right. We added it. Here's the new total. Well, for a half-day walking tour with no transportation requirements, the total increased like $1,800. And I was like, and this is Panama. Like,
yeah,
what? Not France. And even if it was France, that's too much. But like,
yeah,
it's not Europe. And so I wrote back and I was like, thanks for adding the walking tour. $2,000 for a walking tour? And she was like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I adjusted the cost. And I was like,
what?
Like, part of me feels like you're seeing what you can get away with.
Yeah.
Because these emails were just being fired back and forth that had I not mentally had, like, I knew that the trip was going to be right around like 14K. And so when it came in at 16, I was like, alert, like what? Like, where did that come from? In 2 weeks and all this back and forth, I've never seen a number that high. How did we suddenly get there? But like, had I not been paying attention and just scanned the itinerary and be like, oh, the walking tour is there. We're good to go. I mean, what?
I think
that's what that looks like. Does that answer your question?
It totally does. And that's the trickiest part for me being newer is trying to understand and quickly learn for
what
many
pricing
different destinations
should be.
What it should be. Like when we talk about, we got a crazy quote, like what's crazy? I don't know.
So I can tell you because I recently at work. I said I didn't want to get so batchy. I just like,
you're like, buckle up, Anna, let's go.
Let me tell you.
So I got a quote from Europe that is not Western Europe. So like not a key destination. And I was shocked that the cost was over an average $2,000 per day. And so then I looked up the hotels and all of the hotels are like in the 300 to 500 range. And so then I was like, what's going on here? So $2,000 a day shocked me when I saw that hotels were under 500 per night. So I think it's a combination of because hotels, I generally expect that hotels are going to be 40 to 60% of the total trip. So that's how I'm like estimating budgets. So when people tell me where they want to go, if they want to go to Paris, I go look at Paris hotel prices. I look at 4-star and I look at 5-star and I do the math backwards. And I'm like, okay, 7 nights, $500 a night. That's $3,500. Like double. that's $7,000. You need $8 to $10,000, right? Like that, that's how I'm like doing that mental math, is I'm assuming accommodations are 50%. So when I see that accommodations are 25% in a destination where I expected services to be less expensive, now that's not a fair expectation of me because I don't know anything about this destination. I have found places like Egypt, Jordan sometimes, Romania. Like I have found some destinations that are more expensive than I expected. And the reason is not because of the accommodations. Like in Italy, it's always because of the accommodations.
Sure.
Yeah.
And in these other destinations, it's because you always have a driver and a guide.
Yeah.
And there's like, it's
and
like non-negotiable.
They have to be housed. Like they
have to fly
somewhere.
with you if there's an internal flight, and the car is of a certain quality, and the driver, like you can't have a driver guide. Like it's a driver that doesn't speak English and then a guide that does, and that's very highly, educated and what's the word I'm looking for? Certified and whatever.
Licensed.
And so like there are destinations that like they feel like inexpensive destinations, but when you're going as an American tourist looking for high quality, like 5-star service, it's often more expensive than Europe. And you don't have the ability to piece things together to make it less expensive. So in terms of pricing, I was really, really surprised that the average came back at $2,000 per day. And it's not the $2,000 per day that was shocking. It was $2,000 per day that then I looked into the hotels, and the hotels were less than $500 a night. And so it's that balance. I think it's understanding in destinations what percentage of the hotel the budget is. And I'm usually expecting that it's going to be 40 to 60%. And so when it's under that, but then the per day average is still high, that's kind of when I start asking questions. It's not like good or bad, but it's definitely higher than I'm expecting, right? Because I'm expecting that if I do some research and I see that hotels are $500 a night, that we can probably do this for $1,000 a day. So whereas a 7-day trip in this destination, I was like, oh, it should be under 10, like easy. And then it came in at like 12 or 13. And I was like, that feels high, right?
Well, and a curious client can also see the hotels, look up the direct rates, see, of this $20,000 budget, like
where's all this money
of it is
going?
hotels. What's the other 14?
Exactly.
And then it becomes a client management problem and expectation management problem for you.
So in this particular case, it is a situation where we have a driver guide, and it's a driver guide every single day. And this does happen in a lot of destinations, and not all clients really understand that is the only option. And I think that that's been a really big learning process for me, is knowing, like in Italy, you can have a driver from Rome to Tuscany and spend 2,000 euros on that day to like make a full day out of it and include transportation with experiences, but then never do that again in their trip. Right. And you can just really craft like this beautifully, seamless kind of itinerary. But in a place like Ireland, you can't a la carte drivers. Like, oh, we just need a driver on this day and then a driver on this day. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that in Egypt. You can't do that in Morocco. So it's a combination of understanding I always ask, is it a driver guide or is it a driver plus a guide? Because there's a big cost factor there. Like it's one human or two humans. And that's usually a destination thing. Usually it's a destination that is not English speak. In my experience, it's like, it's a driver and a guide because the driver doesn't speak English.
Sure.
In a place like Ireland, you can often find the driver guide because the driver speaks English. And that is like, you have to do that start to finish. Whereas in other destinations, just as a travel advisor, it's like, it was something for me to learn of like, which of the destinations that I can just a la carte the drivers where I want them, and which of the destinations are like, if you want a driver, it's all or nothing. And that helps a lot to start understanding what the costs are going to be. But I'm generally working backwards. I look into hotels first and I see what hotels are, and I do the math backwards if I assume that hotels are 50%. So if hotels are $1,000 a night for a week, that's 7 days, it's going to be $7,000, double. This is going to be a $15,000 trip. That's kind of mentally what I'm expecting. So when the DMC comes back and it's like 13, 14, 15, 16, I'm like, okay, we're in a good spot. When the DMC comes back at 25, I'm like, hold up. What's going on in here?
Something's not adding up.
Or there's like a really high ticket item that I'm just like, what's going on?
I just have something I don't understand about it.
There's just something I have questions. And it might just be, we included a really exclusive private boat. And I'm like, cool. They don't want that.
Yeah, and this is sort of my beef with not doing itemized invoices, which
Oh,
is
tell me your
one,
beef.
it takes so much longer. If the client does want to trim costs, the amount of additional back and forth is so obnoxious, especially if we're on different time zones. And I'd rather just say, okay, I know the client, this is more than they are probably going to want to pay for this. Let me just make the executive decision to pull it out, and now I can adjust the price on my own before I send it over to them versus having to like go back and forth with the DMC two or three times before I even get the itinerary out to the client.
And then you feel like you don't fully, like you got the cost down, but you don't fully know like how it came down because you don't know the breakdown. And like it just like it creates this, I wouldn't say that it's distrust, but it just creates like question marks in my mind of like, are they cutting things that I didn't necessarily want them to cut? But we got down to the price so that that's the ultimate goal. Like, no, that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is the experience for the price that the clients are like wanting to prioritize, right? It's like,
Yeah, because virtually every client that we're dealing with at this level, it's a balance between cost and experience. Most people will pay more for the right experience. Maybe
but
not
what
like
that looks
20,
like is
30%
different
more,
for
but
every client.
for every client. Yeah. And we know the clients. I mean, the whole point of having us is that we know the clients and we can make these determinations. And so not having the data to be able to make that decision is, I agree, really frustrating. And I think it can lead to a client dynamic where they're like, we'll pull this out and then you see what the price is. We'll pull this out and then you see what the
Exactly.
price is. And then
Exactly.
they're like de facto seeing what everything costs anyways by
Exactly.
just chipping it. But it takes weeks to close.
Yes.
I'm very specific when I send a like request out to a new DMC, like here's the brief about the client. Here's the conversation that we've had. Here's the budget range that we're looking at. Like, please let me know if this isn't realistic for what we're looking to do. And the number of times that they'll just shoot back a proposal and then the cost has nothing to do with the cost that I requested, or it's like
Yes.
significantly higher.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
I don't want someone on the DMC's end going to the trouble of actually like doing the work and putting the proposal together. And if they can't like eyeball a prospective cost range and tell me whether or not that's going to work without actually pulling the proposal together,
So
that
we
feels like
can,
a
why
real
can't you?
knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. That feels like a real lack of knowledge on the staff, the team's part there. But also just it feels really disrespectful to like the work that I and the client have put into preparing the brief and like doing that pre-work before it even goes out to the DMC.
It feels disrespectful.
And
Yes.
I know things are expensive and that like people don't have a great sense of what things cost.
Yeah.
It's inconceivable to me that travel costs continue to rise like 10 to 12% every year.
Mm-hmm.
That like a trip that even post COVID in like 2021 or 2022, the number of people who had like a perfectly great like $24,000 to $27,000
Yep.
trip in Europe for 10 days and now it's 35. I don't understand.
I agree. I agree. I love planning like the $15,000 to $20,000 trip in Europe for like 8 to 10 days. Love it. And that is like getting harder and harder to do with the same services.
Yeah.
What I was going to say about the price breakdown, I would love to know in DMC offices how they refer to travel advisors.
What's your hunch? I feel like you have a hunch.
It's not partner.
Interesting. I feel like this would be, I think you should do a whole series on DMC pods, honestly. I think it'd be great to have like, do one that's like, we build our perfect DMC, have one where you have like a DMC partner that you have a lot of trust with, come on and like hash through that and sort of explain like why they don't do some of the things that we wish that they did. Or
I would love that. I would also love like,
me too. I gotta get a DMC who will be willing to talk to me about this.
But don't
menus.
They have, like,
so Kate and I had a whole podcast on why don't you have like a menu or a brochure, and then they have a whole bunch of excuses. But the reason why I don't think they consider us partners, and I am open to be proven wrong. So if anyone is listening and be like, stop, then please reach out to me. hello@mastersandtravelpod.com. I am serious. But this is my experience of a DMC that doesn't provide a breakdown. We know we are travel advisors in the middle. We know our clients super, super intimately. And we generally know DMCs if we've worked together a lot or if we haven't worked together a lot. Maybe we don't know you intimately, but we are professionals. So we understand how DMCs work. And we are ultimately looking to create the best match for our clients and the partner in destination to provide this win-win-win experience, right? Clients are happy, DMC's happy, I'm happy. We all go on and we plan another trip the following year. If we were true partners, all the information would be out on the table so that together, the DMC and the travel advisor could make decisions together with the client's best interest in mind. And in order for me to make decisions with the client's best interest in mind, I have to have all of the information. Yeah. And all of the information means, how much do these services cost? I have no problem if your private tour or your private boat or the private transfer costs $3,000 and they only really want to spend $1,000. That, when I remove that, that is not a reflection of the DMC. That is not a reflection of what I think about their pricing. That is simply me saying, this is not enough of a priority to this client to pay this much. That's all it is. But when they have more information than we do, and therefore we can't make decisions in the best interest of the client, that means that they are making decisions about a client that they have never spoken to.
Yeah.
And that feels disrespectful to what we do.
And I guess my take on that is, in a lot of these destinations, there are so many DMCs that I'm just not willing to work with one that's going to hoard information in that way. Because there are plenty of DMCs. I've worked with DMCs in Italy and in France who will do breakdowns, and they're not weird if I ask for that. Some of them even lead with it.
Yeah. The ones that I work with, they lead with it. I don't even have to ask for it. It's that's part of their proposal. They're like, here you go. And then I go back and I ask for adjustments. They're like, hey, they really want this, but this is too high. We're not going to be able to swing this. Can we adjust it? What can we do? What do you think about this hotel? Is it really worth the nightly rate? Knowing what we know about the client. And then I can truly partner with them.
Yeah.
Make the best decision we possibly can with their expertise, my expertise, and my knowledge of the client and what they're prioritizing. But when I don't have all the information
together, as opposed to just
as partners,
I'm placing an order, you're giving me a product. I'm not particularly satisfied with this product, but I guess I'll pass it along to the client anyways. No, that's not.
Yeah,
So I don't know what the root of the problem is. I suspect it's a little bit of distrust between the supplier. I don't know if it's just that people have been burned by advisors, flipping the net pricing directly to clients, or.
So there's a way to avoid that.
What the problem is, but
I mean, first of all, you can share gross pricing. I don't think that it has to be a breakdown of net pricing. I think it should be a breakdown of gross pricing. That's fine. All I need is an itemized list to what the end. If you give me net, I'm just doing the math to figure out what the breakdown of the gross is, right? So give me the breakdown of the gross. That's fine. And if people are flipping that, make me sign a contract.
Sure.
Make me sign a piece of paper that says, because our reasoning for not providing breakdowns to clients is always that we have contracts with the suppliers and the rates have to remain confidential. That's actually not us. That's what the DMCs are saying. And then we're passing on that message. So I will sign a contract. I will sign a piece of paper that says pricing will be shared with me and I will not share it to the client. And if I share it to the client, that will terminate our relationship. I would happily sign that paper all day long.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna,
he's listening.
Send me the paperwork.
I will sign a copy agreement. It is fine.
Not only is it inefficient, because the DMCs that provide me breakdowns, I pump out those itineraries.
Completely.
And clients are thrilled. DMCs are thrilled. I am thrilled. It works. And I am crafting the perfect trip for that client every single time, because I know exactly what things cost and I know exactly what they prioritize, and it works. And the inefficiency of going back and forth when you don't have all the information to make the best decision, that is one part. But the other part is I've just started feeling more and more of we're not equal here. I don't think that all I do is talk about my partners all day long, but I don't feel like you look at me like a partner.
So, I've heard it on the other side, where I can't remember where I heard an owner of a DMC saying one of the phrases he hates hearing the most from advisors is, who do you use in insert country? And he's like, I hate that language because it's so transactional. And I kind of get it.
It's a great point.
And if and I've heard stories from DMCs where they're like, you wouldn't believe what this advisor said to me or demanded. And I'm like, to be fair, if a client treated me in that sort of transactional way, I would not want to work with them either.
I agree.
So
way too many DMCs are just rolling over and dealing with it and then complaining on the backside. If an advisor is treating you like crap, fire them.
Exactly.
You don't need their business. Fire them.
Right.
Because I agree with you, Anna. We would not let clients treat us that way.
So it is a two-way street of respect, but I think that comes with sharing information and really believing that like we're all in this together to partner in bringing the best itinerary to life for our clients. And we need everyone here, but we need to know what we're talking about and what we're selling so that our clients can also understand that. They don't need to know everything, but like.
Yeah, there is still like a certain amount of discretion, but like between two professionals, there shouldn't really be anything that's off the table. Who do you use in a destination? I generally ask, who do you like to work with?
Yeah.
Which I think is a nicer question.
I probably do say, who do you use? But that is a really good kind of framing of it, that it does make it a little bit more.
Yeah. Anna, what's been your experience just in being new in the industry of like, who do you use in XYZ, and then a whole bunch of people send you a list of 10 DMCs? Like, what's your experience with this?
So, back to our earlier conversation about our process for vetting DMCs, I've found that a lot of advisors haven't necessarily, even if they've been in the industry for a while, haven't had a strategic approach to deciding who their partners are in each country. And so it's a little bit trickier to then trust someone's recommendations. And in the same way that you might talk to 3 advisors and they all love different hotels, or they might all hate different hotels that you love, it's really important to understand I do like working with them, and we are all individual business owners. So we all have our different processes and ways that we build itineraries and present them to clients and process payments and all these things. And so it is a learning curve for figuring out what makes a good DMC partner for me. And when you go to conferences, I find that DMCs most of the time are presenting on cool experiences they can include in your client's itineraries, which is helpful, but also a lot of DMCs can all do the same thing. So I really want you to talk to me about what is it like to work with you, and whether that's what your itinerary creation platform looks like, or your payment processing system, or what does your actual on the ground support look like? Is it just 24/7 if there's an emergency? Is it you're checking in with my clients every night and giving them a rundown of what to expect for the next day? Like,
yes. what is the actual experience?
Right.
Yeah.
Because
both the itinerary design experience and the on the ground experience. Like, I don't want a little USB and a keychain and a pen from you at a conference. I want a little index card sized card that lists like what platform do you use to deliver itineraries? Like, do you break down pricing? Can I book hotels directly? Do you set up a WhatsApp chat between you, me, and the client?
Or we save the trees and they just give you no index cards. We save the trees and they give you a link to their Hive profile.
Love that too.
Well, yes. Okay. Yes. But some people are visual learners, Whitney, and like to have business cards.
But that information period would be very helpful.
But yes, it should also be on the Hive.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, Anna. We have to go, which is unfortunate, but it's the reality of our schedules. Will you come back on and talk with us again about how you have built your strategic approach to which DMCs you like to work with and what you're looking for in a DMC? And we can dive into that topic, because I would love to hear your perspective. And I know that Kate and I have some really specific things that we look for as well that we can chat about.
I would love to. We'll have to do part 2 in the new year.
Okay, well, we've got it recorded, so she has to come back. Thank you both for diving into DMCs. I feel like we could talk about this all day, all afternoon.
It'd be a whole separate podcast, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll come back and we'll chat more. Thank you for everything you've shared so far. It has been really fun and interesting to learn about your experience in your first year of travel. And sorry, I got a little soapboxy, but sorry, not sorry. I can't help it. I just love DMC so much. And so I always tell people, if I'm not giving you a hard time, then you should be concerned. So DMCs, I'm giving you a hard time because I love you so much. So that's all I can say.
Amazing. This was such a treat.
See you both soon.
Bye.